Welcome back to AfricaCom 2018, where we are shaping Africa's digital future. Today, MTN made an important announcement, and joining me is the CEO of MTN, Rob Shuter. What announcement did you make? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Well, I think actually we made quite a few. It's been a bit of a busy day. The most recent one was the cooperation we announced with China Mobile, Unicorn and KaiOS, which is basically to build the first 3G smart feature phone. So this is all about bringing affordable handsets to increase the use of the internet amongst our customers. So we're very excited about that. We're planning on distributing around 10 million of these devices over the next 3 years. And what is super important is that we can build the device at a cost of around $20. So it fills a big gap between entry-level device around $10, just a basic phone, but your kind of low-end smartphones are all the way up around $40, $50. And for many of our customers, it's just too expensive.
And there's obviously a ready and willing market for this device.
Yeah, we think we can be successful with it across pretty much all of our markets. So we operate across 21 countries. Amazing thing about the device is that it has a lot of the Google apps. So search, YouTube, Maps, Google Assistant, it'll run Facebook and Twitter. All of these apps are specially configured to run on an entry-level device. It runs on an operating system called KaiOS, but it's on a form factor, the way the phone looks, that's very familiar to the customers who are using the basic devices. So I think it'll be a very good bridge from the 2G world into the world of the internet.
How soon are we going to see it?
First quarter of next year, so it's just a couple of months ago. A couple of months away.
A couple of months away. That's 3G technology. The buzzword at the AfricaCom 2018 has been all about 5G, and I know MTN is invested in that as well.
Yeah, I mean, 5G is an amazing technology. A massive MIMO, very high speeds, low latency, ability for, thousands of devices to be connected. So that is, I think, part of the future. But it is still quite far out, even across the world, not just in Africa. The reality is the devices on our network are 90% 3G. We have actually a very small amount of 4G devices because they're much more expensive.
Yeah.
So we've had to really optimize the networks across the markets for this high penetration of 3G devices, which is why it makes sense then when you want to bring in an entry-level smart feature phone that it's also 3G, and also it makes it more affordable. We still have quite some 3G growth to go through. Yeah. Over time also we will see more 4G devices, particularly in the metros, and I think 5G for us is still quite some years away. And
what work needs to be done? Think of legislative frameworks to make it possible then for a greater penetration of these 3G phones. I mean 10 million in 3 years that you're going to be making available to the markets in Africa.
I think generally for operators to move from a voice business into running networks that have a lot of data traffic, there are a few things you need. You need the right regulatory framework, what you call universal licenses, so you can reuse all of that infrastructure. You need a lot of spectrum, because spectrum is really the medium between the handset and the network. And you don't use so much spectrum for voice calls, but the minute you're in the data world, it's really heavy on the spectrum. So that's the second thing. And then we need the ability also to connect the various parts of the network together using fiber, also for this increase in traffic. In most of the markets, the right regulatory framework is in place. There are a couple of exceptions. South Africa, we really need more spectrum to be licensed to cope with the data demand. That's key. We've got a couple of markets where we're still requesting that we can deploy 3G on the spectrum of the 2G voice, which will really help a lot. And a couple of markets where we have to buy bandwidth from the national operators, which is not really going to work long term.
And your engagement with the various regulators, they're receptive to this, right? They appreciate the challenges that you are facing and therefore hopefully starting to go in the right direction in making those available.
I think it's going very much better. Regulators and operators actually have a lot more in common than people think. They are very much focused on digital inclusion, financial inclusion. They want to bring more and more of the population in the digital world. This is a key commercial objective for us. Regulators understand that that needs investment, so they need to make sure that the environment is investment friendly. That obviously works for the operators. They're focused on competition. We're not scared of competition, but because it is such a capital intensive industry, you do find in some markets that the economics are simply not there for 4, 5 or 6 operators. So there is a balance, I think, between competition and investment. But my experience in the last 12 months is I think we have a lot more common ground than points of disagreement, and I think we've made a lot of progress.
Parting question, and I suppose practical question, which did come up a little bit earlier. Will these devices be built in South Africa, on the African continent, or are they going to be shipped in from wherever you're going to be putting them together?
Yeah, so our primary objective was to find the most affordable device. So we went out on an RFP, many different companies bid, and getting an entity with the scale and the volume of China Mobile to build the devices is the way to bring them into Africa at the lowest price point. But that is just the cost of the device, because actually now what needs to be loaded onto the device are all of the applications, and these need a lot of local content and a lot of customization. So we really believe that the local development communities, the app developers, local content providers will find it very easy now to say, okay, we've got a service we can now sell to customers in our market because they've got an affordable entry-level device, and they will participate in the digital ecosystem, which is actually really where the future is.
Fantastic. We wish you all the best. It's going to be a very busy festive season for you, clearly, in the build-up to that first quarter of 2019. Rob Schutter, CEO of MTN.